What does Super Saiyan 1, 2, and 3 have that the DBS forms don't? Is it their aura, more memorable moments, or is it simply that Z did a better job at introducing and fleshing out its transformations? Hell, it might just be all three. However, the thing is, God, Blue, and the Ultra forms all have different problems, and I believe that if the series had been more deliberate when it came to these forms, they'd be on par with the original three, or at least far better than where they are now. So since Super can't fix them, let's see if we can. Starting off with Super Saiyan God, it's safe to say that out of all the divine forms introduced within Super, it's one of the most beloved. However, it, just like another form we'll get to, suffers from one thing, that being the lack of use, as within the anime we only see this form 3 times. Battle of Gods, the Tournament of Power, and the Broly movie. Now, although the manga does a much better job at showing off this form, it was usually tied to Super Saiyan Blue in one way or another. So to fix this, I believe that it should have another saga where it's the Saiyan's go-to form. And what better saga than Resurrection F? Side note, to keep the video simple, we'll just scale every antagonist to the strongest form being used within said saga. So although Goku would be using God, this fight will play out the same way as if he had Blue. Now the reason that we would make this change is that it would allow the form to stretch its legs a bit and give us the audience more epic moments from a fan favorite transformation. On top of that, we'd get to see Super Saiyan God Vegeta far earlier. Now in terms of how this would affect the form's legacy, I'd be lying if I didn't say that the events of ROF would negatively affect it to some degree, as seeing Goku being overpowered by Golden Frieza would tarnish the form's reputation just a little bit. However, due to it being a form that we've already seen before, I believe it wouldn't affect it as negatively as it did Blue, seeing as that was a brand new form. Outside of this, the last thing we could do to show off this transformation a little bit more in the future sagas is by using the form as a way to gauge power, just like they did in the Broly movie, as this would be a way to allow us to still see it from time to time when stronger forms get introduced. Speaking of which, okay, where do I even start with this one? Super Saiyan Blue in many ways is a dark reflection of Super Saiyan God. On one side we have a form that many love, and on the other we have a form that many despise. One form had an entire movie building it up, while the other just came out of nowhere. One form had little to no time in the spotlight, while the other had far too much time to bathe in said light. And that right there is one of the form's biggest problems. Yes, just one of its problems. In my opinion, Super Saiyan Blue suffers from 3 main issues. The first being that it was introduced far too early, and this problem right here feeds into the others, those being its overuse within the series and power creep, as it was used from ROF all the way up to the TOP as the quote-unquote strongest form. However, due to how Dragon Ball builds up its stakes, this form had to lose a lot in order to make the big bad look big and bad. As a result, many fans came to see Super Saiyan Blue as an extremely underwhelming form. Now in order to fix this, we just have to have his debut come a little later in the story, as well as giving it some subtle foreshadowing. So to build up some anticipation for its reveal, we can simply allow the scene between Goku and Vegeta's training within Whis' staff during the events of ROF to still occur, as it would serve as a small hint as to what could come next. And instead of introducing it immediately, like what was originally done, we'll just let it marinate a bit in the back of the fans' minds before we reveal it. Now that we have that, next we need its debut, and there are 2 moments where many believe Blue could have appeared for the first time, the first being the Universe 6 saga and the other being the Goku Black saga. In my opinion, there is only one right choice here, and that is obviously the Universe 6 saga for a number of reasons, as although it would be cool to see Goku unlock Super Saiyan Blue in a fashion akin to the ways of the older transformations through anger, grief, and bloodlust, it 1 not only contradicts what God Ki is all about, but 2, Blue being introduced here would quickly be overshadowed by MUI in the following saga, making its legacy more like Super Saiyan 2 where it had one cool moment, then kind of disappeared. Now if it debuts during the events of the Tournament of Destroyers, in order to not create too much transformation fatigue, I'd have it replace Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken's reveal, which kind of sucks because that moment was awesome. However, I believe that receiving an entirely new transformation would still garner a similar effect. Now, by moving its debut here, giving it some subtle foreshadowing as well as an amazing first fight, I think it would make this form far more appealing to fans. Does it fix all of its problems? Of course not. But giving it a stronger start and less time to tarnish its legacy is a far greater step up from where it currently is. Moving on, we have what I like to call the Super Saiyan Blue extended forms. Perfect, Kaioken, and Evolution all serve one purpose in taking the blue form and pushing it past its limit. When it comes to their issues, they typically don't have any. Well, except for Evolution, which many would say kinda came out of nowhere, as these forms are some of the fanbase's favorite due to how much excitement they brought during their debuts. However, as cool as they are, I'm kind of hard pressed about whether or not they're really needed. Especially since we're saying that Blue was introduced in the Universe 6 saga, if we introduce them within the Goku Black saga, they'll quickly overshadow Blue, and then within the very next arc they'll be outshined by MUI. So as much as it pains me to say this, I think not using these forms would be better for the series with how much we move things around. If you think there's a way for these forms to appear without causing transformation fatigue and still have a good impact on the story, let me know in the comments below. Now, last but not least, we have the Ultra forms. And out of all of the divine transformations, these are the only ones that can be said to rival any of the original Super Saiyan forms from Z. However, they still have a few problems, with UI having the most in my opinion. So the issue with Ultra Instinct is that I believe that it was mastered way too quickly. You see, because this form is so powerful and probably will be Goku's last transformation within Super's timeline, Toyotaro giving him mastery over it caused a number of issues. Remember what I said about Blue? How due to the form being introduced so early, in order to make the big bads look big and bad, they had to make Blue look weak. This right here is kinda where UI falls. However, instead of just outright letting the form be seen as underwhelming, Toyotaro instead gave the transformation a quote-unquote weakness. That being that the accuracy falls over time. However, to all my manga readers out there, this was not a thing in the Moro saga. It was specifically introduced in order to find a way to make the villain still stand a chance without making Goku's penultimate form look weak. And now we have True Ultra Instinct, which is just UI's sign with emotions, which is technically stronger than MUI when Goku can't control his emotions, so he uses TUI in order to fight with said emotions, but MUI is still stronger if he has no emotions. I know there's probably a better way to sum it all up, but regardless of that, due to Goku mastering UI so quickly, it leaves us in this current mess. So to fix this, we can say that Goku is still able to tap in the UI sign after his training with Mirrors. However, instead of having Goku consciously unlock MUI during his battle with Moro, Goku tapping into the form could be more reminiscent of how he did it in the Tournament of Power. This would allow us to still see his amazing fight with the Wizard play out without the form having to be nerfed in the very next arc. As for True Ultra Instinct, yes, we're still using it, we can say that Goku would develop it during his training with Whis as a way to use Ultra Instinct his own way, instead of just copying Whis, and here is where we would introduce the accuracy nerf, as due to him using this technique in such a fashion, it would have some drawbacks. Now, as for where I believe Goku should consciously tap into the white-haired Ultra Instinct for the first time, it should be right here, when Vegeta tells him to figure out his Ultra Instinct. I feel like this order of events would preserve MUI as his most potent transformation without having to give it a drawback. As for Ultra Ego, the transformation is still in its infancy, so we haven't seen much from it. However, I think the only thing we could do to make the form look better is simply letting Vegeta get a definitive victory over Granola, seeing as this was Ultra Ego's debut fight, and the fact that it was a draw/loss doesn't sit right with me. And with that, we've come to the end of the video. What do you think? Do you think these changes fixed the God forms, or do you think I made them worse? Anyways, thank you to everyone that watched this video. I hope you all had a great day. Peace, peace. Deuce, deuce.